Tonight's story opens with a quiet moment, and I'm grateful you've chosen to spend it here with us. I'm Davis, your companion for these gentle mysteries, and it always warms my heart to know you're listening. Tell me, where are you listening from tonight? I read every comment, and it helps this little community feel close, no matter the distance. So settle in, breathe softly, and let the evening grow calm around you. Now, let's begin. Morning came quietly in Street Mary Mead. Miss Marple rose at her usual hour. Simple, calm, predictable. She filled her kettle, waited for the soft boil, poured the water with her steady hand. 1 cup of breakfast tea, light steam, gentle comfort. She placed the cup near her knitting basket. Her needles rested neatly inside. A pale blue thread waited for her touch. She liked mornings like this, small, orderly, unhurried. The lane outside sat in its normal quiet. No chatter yet, no footsteps, just stillness. A peaceful start. Miss Marple took a sip. Warm, balanced, just right. She picked up her needles and began a few slow rows. Nothing complicated. A simple pattern, a simple rhythm. Her mind wandered, as it often did. Village routines, names, schedules, tiny puzzles of daily life. They always comforted her. They made sense. A light tap came at her window. Not sharp, not alarming. Just a polite little sound. She looked up. It was Mrs. Finch. Always early. Always fluttering about some small matter. Miss Marple opened the door a moment later. "Good morning, Miss Marple," Mrs. Finch said. Her voice carried its usual mix of cheer and worry. "Awfully early, I know, but I thought I'd drop by." "Of course, my dear," Miss Marple said. "Come in if you like." "Oh, no, I mustn't intrude," Mrs. Finch said quickly. "I only wanted to mention that the vicar's bicycle chain came loose again yesterday. Very inconvenient for him, and he was quite cross about it. Well, quietly cross." Miss Marple nodded. "Chains do slip from time to time," she said. "Perhaps a little oil is needed." Yes, that's what I thought," Mrs. Finch said. "Anyway, I'll leave you to your morning." And off she went. A short visit, a simple one, nothing worth fussing over. Miss Marple closed the door gently, returned to her chair, knitting, tea, calm again. But something drew her eye as she settled, a small flicker, just at the edge of the lane, the lamp-post, the one by the corner, the one that never flickered, not once, not in all her years here. Yet now, a tiny blink, a short, irregular pulse. On, off, on again. Miss Marple tilted her head, not alarmed, just thoughtful, curious. She watched a moment longer. The flicker stopped. The lamppost returned to its steady glow. Still, normal, almost as if nothing had happened. She placed her knitting down lightly. The thread slipped into her lap. Her fingers paused. A flickering lamppost. A very small thing. The sort of thing most people would ignore. Most would brush away. Most would forget. But Miss Marple rarely dismissed small things. Small things had a way of becoming important. Small things carried secrets. Soft ones. Quiet ones. Hidden in plain sight. She looked again toward the corner. The lamp-post stood still, calm as ever. Miss Marple sipped her tea once more. The cup felt warm in her hand, but her thoughts held that faint little blink, that single odd pulse, so slight, so quick, so out of character for that lamp-post. She stored it gently, filed it away in the neat little shelves of her mind. Another small detail, another quiet clue. Something had nudged the morning, just a little. Enough to stir her curiosity. She set her cup down, listened to the lane, faint, still, waiting, and she wondered, what else would flicker next? Miss Marple stepped outside for her morning walk. Same path, same pace, same comfortable start to the day. The air felt steady, the lane felt familiar. Nothing rushed, nothing noisy. She carried her small basket, a habit more than a need. It kept her hands occupied. It kept her thoughts organized. Her steps moved gently toward the corner, toward the lamppost, the one that flickered. Only once, only yesterday. She told no one. It didn't seem necessary. Not yet. Not for something so small. She reached the lamppost and slowed. Not deliberately, just naturally. Her eyes softened. Her attention shifted. There it was. A glove. Right at the base of the post. Neatly placed. Too neatly. Miss Marple paused. Looked once. Then again, just to be sure. The glove lay with its fingers straight. Not curled. Not twisted. Not dropped by accident. Clean. Very clean. Unworn. As if it had never touched a hand. She bent slightly. No hurry. No fuss. Just curiosity. A simple glove. Light color. Soft fabric. No stains. No marks. She looked around the lane. Left, right, ahead, behind. No footprints. None at all. Not near the glove. Not leading away from it. Not leading toward it. Strange. Very strange. Because someone would have needed to place it here, or drop it here, or leave it here on purpose. But there was nothing. No sign of activity. No sign of movement. Just the still lane, and the quiet lamppost. Miss Marple did not comment aloud. She rarely did. Talking too soon spoiled the thinking. She simply crouched a little lower, studied the ground, smooth, untouched, undisturbed. The lamppost stood steady today. No flicker, not even a small pulse, as if nothing odd had ever happened. Miss Marple straightened. Her fingers hovered over the glove. Then she picked it up with care. No rush, no concern. She brushed it lightly. No dust, no dirt, no hint of weather. Almost too perfect, almost placed for her to find. She opened her basket, set the glove inside, closed it softly. That was all. No speech, no expression, just the quiet click of a small decision made. She resumed her walk. Same path, same pace. But her mind shifted slightly. A new notch, a new line of thought. One flicker yesterday, one glove today. Two small things. But small things mattered. They always did. Miss Marple's steps slowed again near the next hedge. Not because she was tired, but because her thoughts were arranging themselves. Neatly, precisely, in their proper mental boxes. A glove without footprints. A lamppost that flickered once. Two details. Disconnected on the surface. But she knew better. Things rarely stayed separate for long. She took one more glance over her shoulder. Just once. Just enough. And a small thought formed. Light. Quiet. Persistent. Something was beginning. Miss Marple stepped into the tea room. Quiet. Warm. Familiar. The morning rush had not begun. Only 2 tables were taken. Only 2 voices carried. Mrs. Archer and Mrs. Blythe sat near the window, both leaning in, both whispering with great interest, both pretending they were not whispering at all. Miss Marple nodded to them gently. They nodded back, polite, friendly, but still whispering. She ordered a small pot of tea, the usual blend, comforting, steady, predictable. She chose a table nearby, not too close, not too far, just near enough to hear the flavor of their words, not the full sentences, just the edges. Mrs. Archer spoke first, a soft hiss of worry. It was last night. I'm sure of it. I heard it. Mrs. Blythe shook her head. Oh, nonsense. You always hear things, every creak, every shift in the wind. No, Mrs. Archer said. This was different. A voice, a proper voice, right under that lamppost. Mrs. Blythe paused. Her spoon stopped halfway through her tea. A voice? A whisper. Mrs. Archer leaned closer. You know the story. Everyone knows it. Mrs. Blythe sighed. Oh, that old tale. The whisperer. Really, we're too old to revive that. Mrs. Archer didn't back down. It's how it starts. Always the same. A whisper under the lamp-post. And then trouble. Miss Marple lifted her cup slowly. Calm. Interested. But quiet. Always quiet first. Mrs. Blythe softened her tone. It's just a story. Something from years ago. Something children repeated. Mrs. Archer shook her head. No, it happened to my cousin, and to the baker's aunt. They heard it. Days before things turned sour. What things? Mrs. Blythe asked. Mrs. Archer lowered her voice further. Accidents. Illness. Lost things. Broken things. The village remembered. That's why the tale stayed. Miss Marple stirred her tea gently. A slow circle. Measured. Thoughtful. A whisper under the lamppost. She noted the phrase. Stored it neatly beside the glove. And the flicker. Mrs. Blythe tried to laugh. Not unkindly. Just nervous. Well, if a whisper appeared last night, perhaps? It was only a man talking to himself. Mrs. Archer frowned. At that hour, in that quiet, and so close to the lamp-post? No, it wasn't normal. Something felt wrong. Miss Marple took another sip. Warm, steady, but her mind shifted again. The glove, the flicker, now a whisper. 3 small things, all near the same corner. All circling one little point in the lane. Mrs. Blythe glanced toward Miss Marple. Have you ever heard such a thing? This whisperer nonsense? Miss Marple looked up with a gentle smile. She did not confirm. She did not deny. She simply listened. Listening often said more than speaking. It's just a tale, Mrs. Blythe repeated, as if convincing herself. A silly little tale. Mrs. Archer leaned back. Stories begin somewhere. Miss Marple set her cup down. Softly, her eyes drifted toward the window, toward the lane, toward the corner, toward that quiet lamppost. How interesting. News spread quietly through the lane. Mrs. Harbury had not been seen since last night. Not unusual at first. She kept to herself. She liked her evenings quiet. But she always opened her curtains early. And today, she hadn't. Miss Marple heard it from Mrs. Finch, who spoke with her usual flutter. She didn't come out for milk. Not a sound. Not a peek. Very unlike her. Miss Marple listened. Calm. Thoughtful. She nodded once. I think we should check. Mrs. Finch agreed. The doctor was already on his way. A simple wellness visit. Nothing more. Miss Marple walked with him to the cottage. A short distance. A familiar door. A quiet step. The doctor knocked. No answer. He tried again. Still nothing. He glanced at Miss Marple. Probably asleep. Or unwell. He used the spare key kept for emergencies. The lock turned easily. The door opened. Miss Marple followed him in. Slowly. Carefully. Respectfully. The cottage looked calm. Neat. Orderly. Just as Mrs. Harbury always kept it. A small shawl lay folded on the chair. A book sat closed on the table. No sign of struggle, no sign of haste, only stillness. Mrs. Harbury? The doctor called. No response. No movement from the sitting room, no footsteps upstairs. They checked the small rooms, each one tidy, each one untouched. She was not there. Miss Marple paused near the kitchen door. Something caught her eye. Small, simple, but wrong. The kitchen clock. It had stopped. Exactly at 9. Not 9:01. Not 8:59. 9. A perfect halt. The doctor noticed her looking. Oh, that, he said lightly. Probably a simple failure. These older clocks give up now and then. Miss Marple examined it a little closer. Her fingertips hovered near the frame. She did not touch. She only observed. The batteries were new. She could see the shine. They had been replaced recently. Very recently. A failure? She asked softly. The doctor nodded. It happens. Nothing mysterious. About it. Miss Marple said nothing more. She stepped back. Let her thoughts arrange themselves. Gently, quietly. A missing neighbor. A quiet cottage. A stopped clock. Exactly at 9. She looked around again. Nothing else out of place. No cup left out. No dish half used. No sign of a rushed departure. Everything felt paused, suspended, as if the room had taken a breath and held it. The doctor shrugged. Probably out visiting someone. Perhaps she forgot to tell us. Miss Marple nodded. Perhaps. They stepped outside again. The door closed softly behind them. Mrs. Finch waited down the lane, wringing her hands. Well, is she there? Is everything all right? The doctor reassured her with a polite certainty. Miss Marple remained quiet. Her eyes drifted back to the cottage window, then to the lane, then, faintly, toward the lamp-post. A glove, a whisper, a flicker, a clock at 9. Small things, very small, but none of them felt random. Miss Marple folded her hands. Her mind clicked once. A subtle shift, a new alignment. Curious indeed. Miss Marple returned to the cottage later that morning. The doctor had gone. Mrs. Finch had been reassured. The lane had settled again. But Miss Marple's thoughts had not. She stepped inside quietly. No rush, no noise, just gentle observation. The room still felt paused, still calm, still holding something back. Miss Marple walked through them with slow steps. Each corner offered the same neat order. Nothing disturbed, nothing scattered. She moved toward the kitchen. Her eyes rested on the counter. A small tray sat near the stove, empty, except for something tucked into its corner. A folded letter, half-burned, edges crisp, center still readable. A strange sight in such a tidy home. Miss Marple studied it without touching. The burn marks were deliberate, slow, controlled, not accidental. Someone had started to destroy it, then stopped. She used a small cloth to lift the paper. It opened with a soft crackle. Half the text was gone. The lower portion remained. Cannot explain everything yet. The matter must be settled soon. Do not come after 9. Miss Marple's eyes narrowed slightly. Not with fear, only thought, only logic. 9. Again, 9. The same time the kitchen clock stopped. The same hour Mrs. Harbury vanished. The same hour someone had burned this letter. A faint scent drifted through the air. Not perfume, not food. Tea, strong tea, the kind usually poured when nerves were unsettled or when a visitor needed calming. Miss Marple glanced at the teapot. Dry, clean, washed recently. Too recently. Something brushed her ankle. She looked down. The cat, Mrs. Harbury's old tabby. It never wandered, never stepped outside. Yet here it was, paws dusty. Dust from the garden. Dust from a place it rarely touched. She knelt to look closer. Soft paws. Fine dust. A small trail from the back door. She followed it with her eyes. Straight line. No hesitation. Someone had gone in and out. Someone at the cottage after 9. Someone who knew the cat. Someone comfortable enough to let it follow. The back door latch was slightly off its usual alignment. A small shift. Barely visible. But Miss Marple noticed. She always noticed. A burned letter. A dusty cat. A faint smell of strong tea. A stopped clock. A glove at the lamppost. Tiny pieces. Each one harmless alone. But together they began to form a shape. Miss Marple folded the half-burned letter again, placed it carefully inside her basket, right beside the glove. She kept her expression mild, her breath steady, her steps soft. The cottage remained silent. The rooms remained still, but her thoughts sharpened, only by a fraction, only by enough. She looked once more at the back door, just a single glance, a thoughtful one. Then she whispered to herself, barely audible, barely there. Someone wanted this hidden. Miss Marple walked to the post office after leaving the cottage. A simple errand, in appearance. But her steps held purpose, measured, quiet, unhurried. The little bell above the door chimed softly. Miss Hartwell, the postmistress, looked up at once. "Good morning, Miss Marple," she said. "Here for your usual post." "Not today," Miss Marple said gently. "I hoped you might help me with the small inquiry." Miss Hartwell brightened. She always enjoyed questions, especially tidy ones, especially ones involving letters. "Oh yes, certainly," she said. "What do you need to know?" Miss Marple set her basket on the counter. "As far as you recall, did Mrs. Harbury receive any letters yesterday?" Miss Hartwell blinked, then nodded slowly. "Yes. 2, actually." "2?" Miss Marple repeated softly. "Yes. 1 by regular post, and 1—" She paused, looked slightly puzzled. "Delivered by hand." Miss Marple tilted her head. "Delivered by hand?" "Yes," Miss Hartwell said. "It was here early, very early. I found it slipped under the door when I opened the shop." Miss Marple considered this. "Do you know who brought it?" "No," Miss Hartwell said. "No one signed anything. No one said a word. It was just there, before dawn." Miss Marple nodded. "May I ask, were the letters similar?" Miss Hartwell brightened again. "Oh yes, same writing on both. Very neat, very deliberate, not rushed." "Both addressed to Mrs. Harbury?" "Yes," Miss Hartwell confirmed. "And here's the odd thing, the hand. Delivered one had no stamp." She lowered her voice. "Someone didn't want it going through the normal process." Miss Marple did not react outwardly. Not yet. Her eyes softened instead. Her mind arranged the details, letter by letter, clue by clue. "1 delivered at dawn," she murmured. "So early." "Miss—" Hartwell nodded eagerly. "Before even the milkman passed," she said. "I know because the street was empty. It was one of those still mornings. No one about," Miss Marple asked gently. "And Mrs. Harbury collected them?" "Oh yes," Miss Hartwell said. "She always did. She came just after breakfast." "So she saw both," Miss Marple said. "She did," Miss Hartwell replied. "And she seemed unsettled, not distressed, not frightened, just thoughtful. She asked me what time the hand-delivered letter arrived." "And what did you tell her?" "I said before dawn." She went quiet after that. Miss Marple placed one gloved hand on her basket. Inside lay the half-burned letter, folded, waiting. 2 letters yesterday, 1 sent properly, 1 brought secretly, both matching handwriting, both linked to 9 o'clock, both pointing to someone who wished to stay unseen, someone who knew her, someone close enough to deliver a letter by hand, someone walking the lane before anyone woke. Miss Marple thanked Miss Hartwell softly, then stepped back into the lane. Her steps were slow, her thoughts sharper, the pattern clearer. A visitor had come quietly, too quietly, before dawn, before anyone noticed. The clue sat like a whisper in her mind. He was already here. Clara Harbury arrived that afternoon. A neat coat, a firm step, a confident air that reached the lane before she did. Mrs. Finch spotted her first. "Mrs. Harbury's niece," she whispered. "Such a modern girl. Always busy, always rushing." Clara greeted Mrs. Finch politely. A practiced smile, a steady voice. "Thank you for your concern. I'm sure it's all a misunderstanding." Miss Marple stood nearby, quiet, observing. Clara turned to her at once. "You must be Miss Marple. I've heard of you." Miss Marple offered a small nod. "Only small things, my dear. Nothing remarkable." Clara waved the comment aside. "My aunt can be sensitive," she said. "Very sensitive. She often imagines trouble." Miss Marple folded her hands lightly. "Is that so?" "Oh yes," Clara said. "Little confusions, little worries. She gets ideas into her head. Family matters sometimes overwhelm her." Miss Marple tilted her head. "What sort of family matters?" Clara hesitated for a fraction of a second, just long enough. Then she smiled again. "Oh, old debts, old obligations. Nothing serious." Mrs. Finch leaned closer. "Debts," she echoed. "I never knew." Clara dismissed it quickly. "Nothing worth discussing. Just private things. Aunt never handled stress well." Miss Marple watched her carefully, her tone, her certainty, her smooth explanations, all too polished, too complete. Clara continued. "I'm sure she's fine. She probably went to visit a friend. She does that sometimes. Miss Marple's eyes softened. I see. Clara clasped her handbag tightly. And the clock? And the missing breakfast? And the empty cottage? She forgets things. Entire mornings, sometimes. Mrs. Finch frowned. That doesn't sound like her at all. Clara smiled again, a little too quickly. Aunt had her moments. You know how older people can be. A little muddled. Miss Marple kept her voice gentle. Your aunt always struck me as precise. Clara blinked once. Only once. But it was enough. Her smile tightened. Perhaps to outsiders, but I know the truth. Miss Marple nodded softly. Of course. Family sees things others do not. Clara seemed relieved by that. She relaxed a fraction, then continued. I only want to look through the cottage, a few papers, a few documents, just to check something. Documents? Miss Marple asked. Yes, Clara said. Something she mentioned last week. A family note, about old accounts. Mrs. Finch looked startled. Old accounts? She never said a word about that. Clara pressed her lips together. A private matter. Miss Marple noticed the tightness, the hurry in her words, the way she glanced toward the cottage, not with concern, but with purpose. Her story was smooth, but too smooth, lacking the small natural flaws honest talk usually held. A prepared speech, a tidy script, too tidy. Miss Marple stepped aside to let Clara pass. Clara walked toward the cottage without looking back. Mrs. Finch whispered, She doesn't seem worried. Miss Marple watched Clara's careful stride, her firm grip on her bag, her quick glance at the lamppost, and she murmured, quite telling. Miss Marple stepped behind the cottage. The lane there was narrow, quiet, often overlooked. Most villagers never used it, but she found it helpful. It revealed things the front path hid. She moved slowly, eyes low, mind steady, hands folded lightly around her basket handle. A small mark caught her attention first. Faint, thin, a narrow impression in the dirt. Not deep, not heavy, as if made by a light step. A narrow heel, a woman's heel. She bent slightly, studied the shape. Clear enough, precise enough, fresh enough. She straightened, took 2 more steps. Another mark, same shape, same angle, same direction. The footprints did not wander. They moved with purpose. Straight, careful, almost deliberate. She followed them a little further. They led toward the gate behind the cottage. A simple wooden gate, often stiff, often squeaky. Everyone knew it needed oiling. But when Miss Marple touched it, the hinges moved smoothly. Too smoothly. Someone had oiled them recently. Very recently. She opened the gate quietly. No creak. No protest. No sound at all. She looked at the ground beneath it. Another faint heel impression. Just one. But enough. The prints continued toward the lane. Straight path. No hesitation. Miss Marple walked a few more paces. Her steps remained gentle. Her eyes moved with practiced calm. The lamppost stood just ahead. Tall. Still. Quiet. The same lamppost that flickered. The same one near the glove. She approached it slowly. A small shift in the dirt near its base caught her eye. Not a footprint, not a heel, just a disturbed patch of soil, as if someone had leaned there, or paused, or waited. She traced the mark with her gaze, a shape of a foot edge, or perhaps the side of a shoe. Hard to tell, but not natural, not accidental. Her eyes rose slightly, just enough to notice the post itself, a faint smudge on the metal, the height of a hand, or a sleeve, as if someone steadied themselves, or leaned in for a moment. Miss Marple let her breath settle. Everything pointed to a single path, from the cottage, to the gate, to the lane, to the lamppost. She turned gently. Her eyes followed the direction the footprints had taken, toward the road where Clara had walked earlier, toward the direction Clara approached from, toward the path Clara claimed not to use. A narrow heel, a freshly oiled gate, a quiet lean against the lamppost, a secret path linking cottage and road, each clue small, each clue soft, but each pointing the same way. Miss Marple rested her hand on the gate. Her fingers brushed the smooth hinge. Someone passed through here. Someone careful. Someone familiar. She looked once more at the prince, then whispered to herself, "He came through here." The inspector arrived that afternoon. Quiet, steady, professional as always. He asked to speak with Clara. She agreed at once. Too quickly, too willing. They gathered in the sitting room. Miss Marple sat near the window, hands folded, eyes soft, mind alert. The inspector began. "Miss Clara Harbury, we need clarity about last night." Clara crossed her legs, calm, smooth, almost proud. "I wasn't here," she said. "I left early, as I told you." The inspector nodded. "Yes, you mentioned 7. Clara smiled. "That's correct." Miss Marple watched that smile, measured it, filed it neatly with all the others. The inspector continued. "Several details do not match that timeline." Clara lifted her chin. "What details?" Miss Marple spoke gently, her voice soft as tea steam. "May I ask, my dear, did you drop a glove near the lamp-post?" Clara blinked. Once. Too long. Then forced a small laugh. "A glove? No. Why would I?" Miss Marple did not answer. She only tilted her head slightly. A mild gesture. A thoughtful one. The inspector laid a small object on the table. The glove. Clean. Unworn. Exactly as Miss Marple found it. Clara froze for one breath, then said, "I've never seen that glove. It isn't mine." "Of course," Miss Marple said softly. No one suggested otherwise. Clara's fingers tightened on her handbag, very slightly. The inspector leaned forward. "Miss Harbury, there are marks in the lane, narrow heel impressions, fresh ones." Clara shrugged. "Many women wear heels." "Yes," the inspector agreed. "But only one pair matches these marks." He produced a small ruler, standard police tool, simple, precise, non-threatening. Clara's eyes flicked to her shoes. "Just once, just enough," Miss Marple added gently. "There were also long impressions, thin ones, like those made by an umbrella tip." Clara forced a light tone. "Surely many umbrellas do that." Miss Marple nodded. "True, but your umbrella has a small chip in the metal. It leaves a distinct mark, the same mark found near the lamp-post." Clara looked down at her umbrella. Her hand gripped it tighter. Her breath shortened. The inspector opened her handbag carefully. He lifted a small object. A key. The spare key to the cottage. Clara's face tightened. "That must have fallen in by mistake." "A curious mistake," Miss Marple said softly. Her tone, kind, not accusing, simply noting. Clara swallowed. Her calm began to thin. Her polish cracked at the edges. The inspector watched her closely. "Miss Harbury, did you visit your aunt last night?" Clara shook her head too quickly, then stopped, then pressed her lips together. "Of course not," she said. But her voice had changed. Sharper, tighter, less certain. Miss Marple lowered her gaze. She had seen that change many times. A shift in tone, a small confession beginning. Clara gripped her umbrella so hard her knuckles grew pale, and when she spoke again, her voice carried the first crack of fear. Clara sat stiffly in the chair. The inspector waited. Miss Marple watched. The room felt still. Quiet, expectant. Clara tried to speak first. A quick defense, a small laugh, a shaky breath, but the words did not settle. The inspector placed the cottage key on the table. Clara stared at it, longer than she meant to. Miss Marple leaned slightly forward. Her voice remained soft. "As I understand it, you and your aunt discussed certain matters last week." Clara's eyes shifted. A small flicker, barely there. The inspector added, "Matters concerning money." Clara straightened. "That is private," she said. Her tone attempted firmness, but it wavered. Miss Marple folded her hands. "Your aunt mentioned a change, a new arrangement, something she wished to correct." Clara swallowed. Once. Hard. She said many things." Miss Marple continued gently. "She intended to alter her will. Clara looked away. Her voice softened. Nothing final. But a promise, Miss Marple said. Promises often unsettle people. Clara pressed her lips together. She didn't understand. There were reasons. I had supported her for years. The inspector nodded. And you feared losing that support? Clara flinched. No, not exactly. Just uncertainty. Miss Marple spoke again. Calm. Patient. You found the draft letter, didn't you? Clara's shoulders tensed. Slow. Gradual. Miss Marple continued. It was in the cottage. Folded. Ready. Waiting to be posted. A clear outline of her intentions. Clara closed her eyes. Only for a moment. You read it, Miss Marple said softly. Every line. And you understood what it meant. Clara's breath grew uneven. She wasn't thinking clearly. Miss Marple shook her head. Your aunt was very clear, very exact. Always. Clara opened her eyes. Red rims, tired edges. She said she would send it tomorrow, said she had decided. And you panicked? Miss Marple said quietly. Clara did not deny it. Not this time. The inspector leaned forward. You went to see her last night. Clara nodded once. Barely. Yes. Miss Marple continued. You argued. Not loudly, just sharply, just enough to unsettle her. Clara's voice fell. She didn't want to discuss it. She told me she had made up her mind. She said she owed someone else more. And the clock? Miss Marple asked softly. Clara looked at the floor. We struggled. Only for a second. My hand hit the clock. It fell. Stopped at 9. Miss Marple nodded. The burned letter? Clara's fingers trembled. I tried to destroy it. I thought, if I burned it, it would change something. It never does, Miss Marple said gently. Clara's voice thinned. I didn't mean harm. I only wanted time. Just time. Her shoulders sagged. Her breath slipped unevenly, her confidence so tidy before finally cracked. Clara folded her hands tightly, then whispered, I didn't think it would end like this. The inspector stood slowly. No rush, no raised voice, just calm procedure. Clara remained seated. Her fingers trembled lightly on her handbag. No attempt to hide it now. No polished smile. Just tired edges. The inspector cleared his throat. Miss Harbury, he said gently. I believe we have enough. Clara looked up. Her eyes were tight. Not wild, just resigned. She knew what came next. The inspector continued. You admit visiting your aunt at 9. Clara nodded once. Yes. You admit reading the draft letter. Another nod. Yes. And you admit burning part of it. A pause. Then a soft yes. The inspector kept his tone steady. You struggled with her, briefly, and the clock stopped. Clara looked at her hands. Her voice fell to a thin whisper. I panicked. I didn't think. I only wanted her to listen. Miss Marple watched her quietly. No judgment. Only understanding. Not approval. Just understanding of how small choices grow. How fear leads people down narrow paths. The inspector reached into his coat, produced a small notebook. Nothing harsh. Nothing sudden. He flipped to the correct page. Wrote a few lines. Closed it. Miss Clara Harbury. Hey, said softly. I must ask you to come with me. Clara inhaled slowly, as if preparing for cold water. She rose from the chair. Not defiantly, not dramatically, just with acceptance. I didn't mean for it to go wrong, she said. I only wanted time. One more day. I thought she would understand. Miss Marple shook her head very gently. People in distress rarely think clearly, my dear. Your aunt included, and you as well. Clara bit her lip. She loved me. I know she did. Yes, Miss Marple said, which made honesty all the more important. Clara looked down. Her voice broke slightly. She said she was changing everything. I thought I was losing everything. Miss Marple's eyes softened. It is often the way. People cling to what they fear will slip away, and in clinging, they make mistakes. The inspector stepped forward. He did not touch her arm. He simply gestured for her to follow. A respectful distance. A gentle lead. Clara walked toward the door. Slow steps. Measured steps. Not fighting. Not resisting. Only accepting the outcome. At the threshold, she paused, turned slightly toward Miss Marple. Her voice quiet, almost small. "I never wanted harm, I swear it." "I know," Miss Marple said. "And harm is not always intended. It arrives in the spaces where honesty fails." Clara nodded once, then followed the inspector out into the lane. Her figure grew smaller with each step, but not vanished, just quieter. Miss Marple remained in the doorway, hands clasped, mind calm, thoughtful, reflecting on the way one decision leads to another, and how even good intentions can bend under fear. She closed the door softly. A gentle click. Her eyes moved toward the cottage window, then toward the lane, then toward the quiet corner where the lamp-post stood. One more thought settled into place. Light, clear, unavoidable. And something told her the story was not quite finished yet. Miss Marple returned home quietly. No fuss, no hurry. Just her familiar steps along the lane. She opened her door, set her basket down. The house welcomed her with its usual calm. Nothing out of place. Nothing unsettled. She filled the kettle, a simple gesture. Routine. Steady. Comforting. When the water warmed, she poured a fresh cup of tea. Not too strong. Not too light. Just right for a reflective moment. She settled into her chair. Her knitting lay where she left it. Soft yarn, light pattern. A small comfort after a heavy day. She picked up the needles. Let them move slowly. One stitch, then another. Quiet rhythm. A rhythm that steadied her thoughts. Her mind replayed the day. Not the loud parts. There were none. Just the small things. A glove, a letter, a flicker, a paused clock. A niece afraid of losing her place in the world. Miss Marple always believed fear was a quiet thing. Not sharp, not loud. More like a soft shadow. It slipped into choices. Tilted good intentions. Blurred honest judgment. Clara feared change. Feared loss. Feared being forgotten. And in that fear, she tried to control what she could. Tried too hard. Pushed too far. Miss Marple knitted another row. Her needles clicked gently. A soothing sound. A sound she trusted. She took a sip of tea. Warmth spread through her hands. Her thoughts softened around the edges. People rarely set out to harm others. That was something she had learned over the years. Most harm came from quiet panic. Small deceptions. Little truths withheld. Moments when honesty felt too risky. Honesty, Miss Marple believed, was rarely comfortable, rarely simple, but always necessary. Aunt Harbury had tried to be honest. Clara tried to avoid it. And the result had woven itself into a tangle that neither intended. Miss Marple finished another line of stitches. She breathed out slowly. A calm release. A gentle settling. Her eyes drifted to the window. The lane outside looked peaceful again. Still. Predictable. But her thoughts lingered on the lesson hidden beneath the day. Fear twists choices. Honesty untangles them. A simple truth. A quiet truth. One she had seen many times. She placed her knitting aside, held her cup with both hands, let the warmth settle deep. The cottage felt safe again, balanced, steady. Yet a small thread of thought tugged at her mind. Something unfinished, not alarming, just waiting. She looked toward her basket. Inside lay the half-burned letter and the glove. Two small things, still holding their secrets, still holding their place in the story. Miss Marple closed her eyes briefly. A soft pause, a thoughtful breath. Then she opened them again, because something, she felt, was quietly asking to be noticed next. Evening settled gently. Miss Marple moved through her cottage with her usual care. One lamp lit, one cup rinsed, one quiet moment following another. But her thoughts were not entirely still. They drifted upward, toward the attic she rarely visited. A calm place, A quiet place. A place she used for small memories. She carried her basket to the bottom of the stairs, set it on the table. The half-burned letter lay inside. Beside it, the glove. 2 small puzzles, 2 unfinished threads. Her eyes lifted to the attic door above. A simple wooden door. Closed for months. Closed because nothing up there ever needed checking. At least, not usually. But tonight felt different. Softly different. Like a gentle tap on the shoulder. A suggestion more than a summons. She climbed the steps slowly. Each step deliberate. Not heavy. Not hesitant. Just thoughtful. At the top she reached for the small handle. Turned it. The door opened with a mild shift of air. No drama. No sudden movement. Only a quiet welcome. The attic was calm. Still. Exactly as she remembered. Boxes lined neatly. Old trunks. A shelf of forgotten letters. Nothing moved. Nothing misplaced. Yet something felt touched. Not disturbed. Just noticed. Miss Marple stepped inside. Her eyes drifted to the shelf of letters. A row of envelopes. Old ones. Faded writing. All arranged in her careful order. But one envelope sat slightly forward. Just a few millimeters. Barely noticeable. But to her, clear enough. She reached for it gently. The paper was older. The ink faint. A letter she had forgotten. One she had placed here years ago. Something someone once gave her. Something she meant to read again. And then never did. She turned it over. There was no sender name. Just a year. A simple date. Nothing more. She opened the flap softly. The paper inside crackled from age. She unfolded it. Slowly. Carefully. Only a few lines remained readable. A mention of the girl who visits at odd hours. A hint of old promises not kept. And one phrase that stirred her thoughts. Watch the corner. It always begins. There. Miss Marple breathed out lightly. The lamppost. Again. Always returning to that quiet corner. She read the final line. A simple warning. Someone will pretend they belong. Her fingers paused. Her mind clicked. A gentle, familiar shift. Not shock. Not alarm. Just quiet connection. She folded the letter again, placed it back on the shelf. A small weight in her thoughts remained. A shadow passed near the attic window. Very slight. Too slight to startle. More like a silhouette shifting as someone walked down the lane outside. Miss Marple looked toward it. Not fearful. Only curious. Only thoughtful. The attic returned to stillness. But a new thread had joined her mind. A soft one. A waiting one. She touched the forgotten envelope once more, then whispered to herself, "Tomorrow, another kettle will boil." Thank you for spending this quiet moment with us. Your company means more than you may realize. These gentle mysteries grow warmer when you're here, when you listen, when you share a thought, a small reflection, a tiny clue that caught your eye. So let me ask you something simple tonight. Just a small question. Just a little step into the story with me. 2 clues stood out in this mystery. Both quiet, both soft, both easy to overlook, yet both holding their own little weight. The glove, clean, unworn, placed too neatly by the lamppost. A small thing, barely noticeable, but Miss Marple noticed. She always does. Or the stopped clock, frozen at 9, a time that returned again and again. A quiet number, a still moment, holding more truth than it first seemed. Both clues were calm. Both clues were ordinary, but both carried meaning. Hidden meaning. The sort of meaning Miss Marple stores gently in her mind, never rushed, never ignored. So now I wonder, which one spoke to you first? The glove or the stopped clock? Which detail made your thoughts pause? Which one tugged at your attention just a little, just enough to make you lean closer, enough to make you think, yes, something sits behind that? Your answer matters. Your instinct matters. These stories feel richer when you join the thinking, when you choose a clue, when you follow a thread, when you trust a small detail, just as Miss Marple does. So, tell me, dear listener, which one was it? The glove by the lamppost? Or the clock stuck at 9? And while you're here, let me ask another small thing. Something simple, something warm. Where are you listening from tonight? Your places always surprise me. Tea tables, quiet bedrooms, long evening drives, small corners of the world I may never see, yet all connected by these quiet stories, by these soft mysteries, by the gentle comfort of a shared moment. So share your place, share your corner of the night. Let this little community grow one voice at a time, one listener at a time, one warm comment at a time. Thank you for each word you write. Thank you for each time you return. Thank you for sitting with Miss Marple's thoughts, and with mine, and with your own. Your presence adds something to the quiet, a light, a warmth, a soft connection across the stillness. I hope tonight's clues felt gentle. I hope the mystery felt calm. And I hope you'll share your thoughts below. But before we move on, before the evening settles completely, keep your eyes on the small details. They always lead somewhere. And the next detail, the next small clue, is already waiting. The lane settled into its usual quiet. Nothing loud, nothing rushed. Just the soft ending of a long village day. The lamppost stood gently at the corner. Its light glowed steady now. No flicker, no hesitation. Just a warm circle of calm. A small cat sat beneath it. Still, content. Its tail curled neatly around its paws, as if guarding the corner, or watching it, or simply keeping the night company. Beside, the cat sat a wooden bench, worn smooth by years of village use. Light chatter, short rests, small stories exchanged without notice. On the bench lay a single glove, the same one Miss Marple found earlier. Clean, unworn, neatly placed once more. Someone had set it there. Not dropped, not forgotten, just placed, as if waiting to be noticed again. The glove looked soft in the lamppost light, quiet, simple, holding its own tiny piece of truth. Across the lane, a cottage window glowed, a faint light, still and steady, a sign of a kettle on, a book open, a quiet routine continuing as always. The village rested in these little things: a lamp, a cat, a glove, a window, small anchors in a gentle night. The cat shifted slightly. Just a small move, just enough to show it noticed something. A sound, a breath, a presence passing along the lane. Nothing urgent, nothing sharp, only a quiet awareness. The lamppost held its glow, unchanging, faithful, casting a soft circle around the bench and around the glove. A shadow moved across the far side of the lane, light, unhurried, almost blending with the stillness. Someone walking home, or perhaps simply passing by. The cat followed the movement with slow eyes. Then the shadow faded, and the lane returned to calm. The glove remained on the bench, undisturbed, patient, almost purposeful. The lamppost hummed its soft glow, a gentle companion to the quiet scene. A curtain shifted behind the glowing window, just for a moment, a small sign of someone looking out, someone making sure the lane stayed safe, or stayed known, or stayed watched just a little. The curtain fell still again. The window kept its light. The cat settled deeper into its seat by the post. Everything returned to its slow rhythm, its comfortable pace, its small, steady breaths of quiet. But the glove on the bench did not feel finished. Not quite. It rested there like a reminder, like a note waiting for a blend of to-reader, like a thread still tied to something ahead. The lamppost glowed on. The window light softened. The cat blinked once, and the lane calm as ever held one last whisper. Something small. Still wanted to be noticed next. Thank you for sharing this quiet evening with us. I'm Davis, and it truly warms me to know you spent these gentle minutes here. Stories like this grow softer when they're heard by kind hearts, and I'm grateful for yours. In a world that rushes so quickly, your calm presence means more than you think. Every listen, every thoughtful pause, every quiet reflection. It all adds warmth to this little corner we've built together. Somewhere in the background, a kettle gives its soft hiss, reminding us that comfort often begins with simple things. A cup of tea, a still moment, a peaceful thought carried into the night. Thank you for being part of that. Thank you for your gentle company. And thank you for returning, again and again, with such kindness. May your evening stay warm, may your heart stay light, and may your night be gentle. A single page turns in the quiet, soft, unhurried, like a small breath at the end of a long day. The village settles into its gentle rest. Lamps dim, steps fade, windows grow still. On one table, a cup of tea cools slowly, a thin ribbon of warmth rising, then drifting away. Outside, the night offers its faint whisper. Not a warning, not a call, just a soft reminder that the world continues in quiet ways. The scene lowers itself into calm. Light fades, shadows settle, and the night closes with gentle peace.